Good morning or afternoon, and thank you everybody for joining us for today's SafetyChain software webcast. What is food safety chain management and how it can help you enforce food safety and quality compliance in real time at every point along your supply chain. Very glad that you've been able to join us today. My name is Barbara Levin. I'm SafetyChain's head of marketing and customer community. I'm being joined today by Dave Detweiler, who leads up our solutions consulting group, and I'll tell you about our agenda in just a minute. Before we begin, let me provide a few housekeeping announcements. Our event today is being hosted on the WebEx platform. Should you require any technical assistance, if you're still logged in, you can go out of full screen. If you just go to the top of your screen, the toolbar will drop down and you can hit the return button and just send a chat to our host. If you get thrown out, then you have to call WebEx technical assistance directly. You can try to log in once, but if you can't, you can reach them at the number on the screen there. And I'll give you a chance to write that down while we're going through the other announcements. If you're having trouble, if you're listening to the audio through your speakers and it's not coming in clear for you, in your confirmation email, there was also a number that you could use, so you can call that. We will be making the slides and the recording available to everybody. That will be sent out within 24 hours of today's event. I'll address that a little bit more at the end. We'll be taking Q&A at the end of the event, or the end of the presentations. If you want to submit a question before then, you can simply go to the toolbar at the top of the screen, click on the arrow on the right-hand side, and you'll see a Q&A icon. You can enter your question and send, but we'll have plenty of time as well to enter those at the end. Finally, for your privacy, you can only see the names of the hosts and the presenters when you're not in full screen, and your name. You cannot see the names of the other attendees. And now that we've gone through that, let's talk about our agenda. Many of you have been on other events with us where we've had guest speakers on a variety of FSQA topics. Today is really to introduce the concept of food safety chain management. For those of you that haven't joined us before, we're going to look at an overview of food safety chain management, talk a little bit about how it works, helps you create ROI in your FSQA and operations, why cloud technology is key to food safety chain management, and why we believe that it's key to food safety and quality programs in today's complex global environment. And we'll end by telling you a little bit about our safety chain for food, and then we'll take your questions. So with that, let's go on to our presentation. We are seeing the food and beverage industry adopt food safety chain management in increasing growing numbers, and it's getting stronger and stronger every day. And there are some key reasons, for this. Obviously, stating the obvious, having to withdraw a product, having a customer reject product, and when there's a recall, this is costing the industry $7 billion annually. Removing goods from shelves and lawsuits and lost sales and public relations repair. And, a lot of times it's just very expensive inventory and packaging replacement. It might be something that you caught before it ever left your facility, but you still suffered a loss, even though you caught it before it went out. But if you had a contaminated ingredient that went into production and you didn't find that out until afterwards, there's still a piece of that $7 billion in there. The other thing is that liability when it comes to FSQA issues that do cause problems and cause illness to the public, the liability these days is going everywhere. The liability is no longer the manufacturer or the supplier or the restaurant. It's everybody. It's everybody that touched the product, the growers, the suppliers, manufacturers, the distribution and the transportation companies, anybody that touched it. And the best reason, of course, is the growing complexities of regulatory issues, some non-regulatory and third-party, and more compliance challenges. And the problem here is complexities are growing almost daily, it seems, but I haven't spoken to too many people whose food safety and quality assurance departments are growing. And so FSQA operations today are really challenged with having to do more with less. And so really what this boils down to here is this daily challenge, and I ask people what's keeping them awake at night. Really it's boiling down to, how do I meet my regulatory requirements? How do I meet my third party, maybe GFSI requirements? And of course, how do I meet my customer specifications while getting product out on time, while remaining competitive, and of course, while remaining profitable? And this daily challenge is why we've seen such a surge in food safety chain management. It's really a new generation of online technology that helps ensure food safety, quality assurance, and compliance in real time of all of the points in your particular food supply chain. Creates operational efficiencies that you and the participants in your chain enforce safety and quality compliance, again, regulatory, third party, and customer, eliminate many manual processes and errors, and by doing that, we're creating operational efficiencies, prevent withdrawals and rejections and recalls, and what this ultimately does is protect your market value and brand. Probably, I know we've got a lot of folks on the call today that probably see themselves somewhere in here. You're a manufacturer or producer, you're a grower or supplier, you are a distribution company, or you are a transportation company, and then of course we've got restaurants and restaurants and retailers on the call today. These questions in the cloud are probably one of 50 questions. How complex is it to manage all of those different specifications for your customers and for your suppliers? How do you manual data is performed? How early can you detect and fix issues and take those catalysts? Are your COAs difficult to track? How much time is spent collecting and analyzing finished product data, if you can do that at all? If your data if you're even able to put all of that data together for trending. Very often, some of it's manual, some of it's electronic, usually in a lot of different systems. How much time do you spend verifying quality and safety? Are you experiencing late shipment? How much time do you spend preparing for audits? All the challenges in both food operations and food safety and quality assurance are very manual these days, very time-consuming. So it's electronic, but just because something is electronic doesn't mean it's automated and easy to get the information. And we all know, and in this industry particularly, that time is money. So at a high level, how does food safety chain management work? There are 4 key steps. The first one is automating the tests that need to be done, automating standard operating procedures, automating all the different programs so that all specifications that you have, whether they're safety or quality specifications, can be entered into a system. All notifications can be set for standard operating procedures, like checking the metal detectors, making sure they're calibrated every morning. It ensures that all of the right tests and procedures are performed inbound, internally, and outbound. The beauty is if you have a new spec or new test, they're loaded into the system, it's automatically cascaded both up and downstream. So even if a supplier says, oh, we didn't get the notice and we didn't understand that, the salt percentage had changed, the system won't let it pass. So all of the specifications and standard operating procedures are set into the system, good manufacturing practices. All information can be sent into the system electronically, and it can be sent by email. Suppliers and labs can go onto a portal and enter information. Information can come directly from equipment, from weighing equipment, from cooling equipment. Some solutions allow flexibility so that if suppliers have been sending a PDF, well, they can still send it that way, and it can be read by an optical reader. But the critical piece here is when all that information is received, no matter where you are in the supply chain, it's analyzed in real time to all the specifications that have been set up. And all of this information turns into then actionable data. If any deviations from specification, alerts go out. They go by email, they go by text, and there's all of the key stakeholders that you identify. So that allows for immediate corrective action. Get that ingredient before it goes in and contaminates production product, for example. All this information, no matter where it's coming from, all resides in a single database that then gives you up-to-date visibility into safety and quality performance. It helps you be audit-ready on demand because all of that information is now time date stamped and all in a central repository, which has a lot of ROI, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So not only does this make it easier for your participants and your supply chain to work together, but it's allowing FSQA folks to, for example, manage by exception. Instead of having to go 500 pieces of paper to find maybe the two deviations that you have to deal with, these can be automatically generated to allow ingredients or product to go to the next point chain because the two or deviations, there's going to be an alert so that you can focus on those two things, getting corrective actions and making sure that those problems are dealt with in a timely manner. 4 steps, 4 key benefits. We spoke about these at a very high level before. You'll hear me say several times, and you'll hear Dave say, what this does is allow you to prevent problems versus reacting to problems after the fact. Helping you keep non-compliant supplies from in and going into production and non-compliant finished goods from your customers. The dramatic reduction in manual processes and error that your data analyst can spend time analyzing data versus entering data. This really does help prevent withdrawals and rejections and internal and external recalls. And it turns compliance data into trending and performance ammunition. So you can really understand where you can save money, which suppliers are giving you the best safety record with the lowest cost. Perhaps you're looking at something that's always on the high side and then always pushing the under and over. You can track those trends and maybe narrow specifications for a particular ingredient. Proactive preventive action increases supply chain bottom line. This is very simple, but obviously the faster that you can catch problems, the less money it's going to cost. Once something goes into production, there's going to be some cost, but that's going to be a lower cost than if it gets shipped. If you've got to take back off of the trip, you've got to pull it off of the supermarket shelves, if you now have people that have eaten food and are sick. So prevention is really Prevention is the focus of the industry now. You know, are we just record keeping? Are we just reacting after there's a problem? Or are we understanding where risks lie and preventing problems from taking place in the first place? There's 4 key areas where food safety chain management is paying for itself and then creating a return on investment. Time, saving money, creating efficiencies. What does this do? Time savings, obviously time and labor. There's less time having to do as many samples. You can identify the high-risk products and focus some of the efforts there. There's obviously all of the paperwork and all of the manual data entry that is saving time and saving money. Materials and yield, getting the highest performance from products. Again, if you can catch a problem before a contaminated ingredient goes into production, maximizing your yield. Sometimes it's safety, sometimes it's just a quality issue. You might have a supplier who's supposed to be sending meat that is 80/20, and the COA said 80/20. You do a sample. You're waiting for the results of that sample, and you go ahead and you use the product. Well, you were able to get that information faster. If you're able to get an alert as soon as that sample was tested and realize it's 75, you're going to have to add more lean meat in to get your proper percentages. That costs you money. Perhaps you are a credit from the supplier. Again, trending and analysis is absolutely key. The ability to look at all food safety and quality information and see where you might be able to fine-tune specifications or processes, or look at your approved supplier programs and understand who's being active there and perhaps who isn't. And then, of course, there's money savings in risk mitigation. Again, in the prevention of the withdrawals, the rejections, and the recalls. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave to speak about why the cloud is so key for food safety chain management. Then we're going to tell you a little bit about our solution, and then we'll take your questions. Dave?
And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And really, I want to hit on 2 areas, and the first one I think is very important. Everybody talks about the cloud, right? And I see a nice group of people here on the phone, and I'm sure everybody's heard the term in some form or fashion. And a slide depicts so important when, especially when you're looking at food safety and quality solutions, why it's so important to be enabled by the cloud, right? Just think of the logistics alone. I'm looking at some of the organizations we have on the call today, right? Some global organizations. I can tell some organizations with multiple facilities. When you think about the ability to deploy a platform that's accessible from anywhere, right? Anywhere there's an internet access point, or has the ability to generate an email, or anyone who has access to a tablet device. Think how much more available that makes the solution. And if you're looking at here on this slide is, that walks through that Barbara has taken you through, that chain, that supply chain, the safety chain you're looking at here, right? You have suppliers, you have producers, you have customers. Maybe not the right terms here at the bottom of the slide. We also have retailers I see on the phone, and some quick service restaurants as well. The idea is that you have multiple facets to your organization that need to have access or input data to this. Never mind the idea of then regurgitating back information or reports, right? So from a very high level, the reason that the cloud has been so successful in delivering this type of kind of complex solution, we can make it very simple, right? The idea is that you're a global organization. You can access this from anywhere, right? The idea that it's very configurable. So when you look at your own specific supply chain and you have suppliers, wouldn't it be nice to give your suppliers just a piece of information or a tool that they could utilize very simply and easily? The idea is that in the cloud technology, you have that capability to very granularly track security levels. So I have access to certain information, whereas Barbara may have a completely different set of information. And when Barbara mentioned this preventative nature, the idea of having a cloud-based solution with all this data in one place, and then very quickly being able to give Barbara access to the 10 or 15 items that are most important to her job, or the 10 or 15 items that are most important to my job. And back to this slide that you're actually looking at, the level of transparency. We have this conversation across organizations. How much transparency do you really want to give to everyone? Right? It's a question that every organization gets to answer. It's configurable. Some organizations go, this would be really great if we just had it internally so I could roll up those reports to our managers and our directors and our plant managers and our executives. Organizations look at this and go, wow, this is an opportunity where across my suppliers, for example, I can have complete transparency. People with facilities throughout the United States or around the globe where they can have multiple facilities utilizing the same system. So now you get some actionable data that you can track and trend, data that you can compare against, facility to facility, supplier, whatever it might be. The game of all of this is actually actionable data to continue to improve your process or your production, right? Seeing some pictures here or just some other examples on your screen, right? You have external laboratories, internal laboratories. When you start thinking of all the different types of data that might be associated with an FSQA solution, the cloud deployment really enables that. It allows that to happen. Not everything lives inside your firewalls anymore. Inside your own facility, it doesn't all live, right? You're dependent on that supplier and providing you some data or information. You're dependent on having that ability to give data and information to your customers on the other side. So, important. Just a couple examples you're seeing on here where you might have folks on the facility floor capturing data in tablets. You might have folks out in the field capturing data in tablets. You might have suppliers on the left side of the screen actually emailing in information, and then full component again of pulling this back around so you can have guides and key performance indicators and reporting available. So very important. Last piece, we'll end on this. We hear a lot from food safety and quality folks that they don't always have the IT support that they like within the organization. And the last and possibly most important piece of cloud deployment is that it doesn't require a lot of IT support. There's no hardware to install. There's no servers to support. There's no additional data integrations you have to figure out from a supplier or a lab standpoint or whatever it might be. So the idea of very quickly being able to deploy something in the cloud and not requiring a lot of IT structure, not only to deploy it, but also none to support it, right? We talk about the cloud a lot, and everybody says, well, that's a change for some organizations, and I looking at the list of folks I have on the phone, I know some of you go through that process, right? Organizations say, hey, well, what's the cloud? It's a little bit scary. Where does our data live, right? First of all, any vendor that you're dealing with that's delivering a cloud application, you go through the security review, right? Everyone does a very good job of it. I would tell you from a SafetyChain standpoint, we take a lot of pride in the fact that most individual organizations cannot secure the application the way that we can. The ability for us to invest money in research and development in making sure that the system's secure. But I put this slide today just for them to think back of, what banking was like 15 years ago, right? 20 years ago. We were all going to brick and mortar buildings. We were going in, sign off on our check with a deposit slip or whatever it might be. And I wager a guess that, 70-80% of you on the phone today haven't been to the bank very often lately, right? You're online, you're checking your statements. Think about that data that's available, right? It's a hosted, secure cloud enablement, right? So similar to what we're doing here from an FSQA standpoint. For example, many of you might today actually go out and enroll in benefits, view stubs online, right? Some very critical personal information that's being stored out in this class, if you will, and now we're just seeing that trend move right over into the food safety quality assurance part of the industry. So just a couple examples, things that you can take back into your organization and say, hey, by the way, when we talk about cloud, these are some common things that we see we're actually utilizing. It's a great term, and the cloud deployment actually enables this preventative nature. Nice little image here to think about it. We want a smoke detector, right? We want to be the tool wants to provide that ability to real-time notify if something is outside of attribute or out of specification or a task that was to occur that hasn't occurred. you never want to be on that right side of the screen, right? You don't want to be the arson investigator. You don't want to have something happen and then have to go back and figure it out, right? So that ability to have one database, that ability for that database to house attributes, specifications, and then generate notices out of it, whether they are outside of spec notices or actually admission notices, is obviously very important, and we think it delivers a whole lot of value to an organization. Detectors in your house, they don't go off, right? They go off when they detect smoke. That's the time they should go off. And to Barbara's point, you might have hundreds, if not thousands, of records that you're manually reviewing and looking for that one reason to sound the smoke detector, right? You make this electronic, you can digitize a lot of this, and you can enable a solution to actually monitor that for you and become much more effective, right? So as we pull back around here, Barbara, dignity, the ability just to talk a little bit specifically about SafetyChain for food, our actual product offering, obviously available in the cloud. What you'll see here is a comprehensive solution, right? This has been built from the ground up to support food safety and QA within organizations. That's our sole focus as an organization. You'll see that we have 3 different modules across your screen: inbound, production, outbound. Again, for some of the folks here in retail, we see that production elements, being more in store, you might call it, and so forth. But the idea is that our solution is modular to utilize different portions of the solution where it makes sense. You don't have to utilize the entire solution, but it allows on the inbound side, for example, to do things like those supplier documents that we're all being required to track, whether that's through our vendor approval program, SQF and BRC, or the GFS tools that we're all aware of, or it's actually part of your QA platform and your QA program in place today. But you're tracking documents from those suppliers. Also, the ability to automate documentation like COAs to an organization. It's the person manually reviewing one by one those COAs. Why not make that process? Have this compared directly against your specifications for that raw material product real time, and that happens if something's outside of spec, it generates a notice, right? Reporting, scorecards, all very important on an inbound side. From the center console here, you'll see production. We do things around integration with external laboratories, integration with internal lab equipment, take those pen and paper forms that the QA team might have on the facility floor and digitizing them, allowing them to be entered on in tablets or smartphones or devices. A full module around HACCP and hold and release programs and the workflow capabilities around that, and electronic signatures and guidelines, as well as a GFSI tool where we actually codify. We've taken the code for SQF and BRC and FSC 22000 and put it into our system, allowing organizations to go through that desk audit instead of having that big 3-ring binder of paperwork, to have it all digitized. Not only will the system be that repository for it, but it will remind individuals of what they need to do as it's upcoming. You need to view this document. Piece bound side, customer compliance. We're being asked to generate COAs and reports to our customers today. Additional customer specifications or country-specific specifications, all available within our solution, all very affordable, and back to that cloud deployment, because of a requirement for infrastructure, because it can affect an organization very quickly. We're seeing ROI in the year, right, of deployment, not in the years and so forth of this. So that's a little bit about SafetyChain. I know I'm coming up on my time here, and Barbara's keeping an eye on it, but three items, right? We'd like to talk about EAT at SafetyChain, our ability for the solution to enforce FSQA throughout the organization. However it might be, the ability to automate and alert, right, proactive notifications, task scheduling of notifications, the ability to generate notices if something's outside of specification or outside of an attribute. And the last piece is so important, right? I hear so often from companies we talk with, you have a whole bunch of data today, but it does live in an environment where you can actually make it actionable. If you pull all this together into one place and you can start to see how material is actually performing. You can start to do proactive training. Hey, why do we have a corrective action here all the time, right? That idea of having actionable and insight into your data has really taken organizations to the next level around the FSQA platform and process. One of our customers here at SafetyChain, Soul utilizes us in that cloud environment that we've spoken about, and it's enabled them to go all the way down into the field and things like pre-harvest assessments and reviews, right? So think about how that used to be done, right? It was a pen and paper. Person might have gotten back someplace where they could fax it if they were lucky. So we moved on to email. Now it's actually out in the field environment, can capture the information, and as soon as it's captured, that information is being reported up into the office where Nye and her staff actually have access to that information, giving that real-time access to information and data as well. So, Barbara, I know I might have taken up a little bit too much of my time. I get excited about the cloud environment. Thank you for that, but I'll kick it back to you.
I love it that you're excited about the cloud environment. You make everybody excited about it. What we're going to do now is go to full stream, and we're going to, take your questions. Before we do that, though, you know that we allow 45 minutes, but just in case any of you need to sneak out, we hope you don't, but I wanted to give you some information, and then we'll come back. And by the way, all of you now should be able to see on the bottom right-hand side the Q&A tab, and you can simply enter your questions on the lower right-hand side and hit send and have those queued up. You'll get an email within 24 hours that's going to allow you to immediately download the slides and the recording from today. It also allows you to request pricing information, a private in-depth demo, and ROI calculation that's based on your specific parameters to help show how much money can be saved by implementing these types of solutions. We have great events coming up. You can get more information on these, and you can register for some of these events. On April 25th, Kathy Crawford from HACCP Consulting Group is going to be doing a webinar on how to demonstrate continuous improvement in your SQF program. Food Safety Tech Supply Chain Vulnerabilities Conference, a fabulous conference, very interactive, intimate group of about 100 or so folks and industry leaders, chaired by Dr. David Atchison. If you go to our website, there is a Friends of SafetyChain special offer for $200 off registration. The code for that is there. You can see us in addition to FST coming up at the Pet Food Forum, the United Fresh Conference, as well as Food Safety Summit. And we are launching FSMA Fridays with Dr. David Atchison and Levitt Partners, beginning April 5th with a white paper, and then the last Friday of every month with a live event where you can interact directly. And if you'd like to learn more about FSMA Fridays, go to our website and register for our blog. We'll be promoting all FSMA Friday activity through the blog. With that, let's go to our questions. Let's see, question from Ron, somebody here that knows their technology, Dave. Are we speaking about software as a service or platform as a service?
Actually, true software as a service. It's multi-tenant, hosted in several different hosting facilities. I believe we utilize 6 different hosting facilities around the globe, but it is actually software as a service, true multi-tenant setup.
Okay. Question from Catherine, asking about the product. I'm actually trying to go back and find, here it is, this slide. Catherine is asking about the various products that were listed and asking if you need to have all of these or if these are modular. And in modular, do they work with other systems that people might already have in place?
For sure. So first of all, it's completely modular. So I'm looking at another question coming in too. It's fully modular, and it does work very well with other systems. That's why we developed it as a modular solution. So we have some clients today, for example, that will say, hey, I've automated my HACCP program, so I don't necessarily need the HACCP module within your solution. However, our system might need to receive data from that HACCP program that you have in place, or vice versa, that HACCP system needs to receive data from us. I would tell you the most common integration that we see is with ERP solutions, because you notice on this slide you don't see things like inventory management, which you're most likely doing in your ERP. However, if we're facilitating a HACCP hold and release program, it's very important that our system then integrates or sends data to that ERP solution to decrease that inventory, right? So if the answer to your question is yes, highly flexible in our integration techniques. We do that with equipment as well as systems throughout the globe today. And yet it's completely modular, where we're not out pitching a rip and replace. Hey, rip everything out that you have and use this. We'll come to organizations and say, if it's working, besides that, we'll look to an integration point. If you have areas or gaps that we can fill with the software, then we would look to do that with one of the modules.
Great, thank you. I see a question from Kevin asking, can you give an example of a customer that's using this software today and the effect on quality? I'll go back to Dole, since we gave that quote. Dole is very focused on making sure that all quality specifications and standard operating procedures and good agricultural practices happen, from the earliest point possible. So they don't just wait for COAs. They actually have folks now in the field with smart tablets and smartphones, forms on those phones for all of the things that they check, where it's all the quality attributes for things like sanitation and practices, and that information is sent directly in real time. Nye said to me, sometimes somebody would go ahead and harvest something, or there was a problem and how long it took to take that action. She'd be sitting in an airport, and she said she often is in airports, and excuse me, and will get an alert on her phone. She can make an immediate decision: harvest that field, don't harvest the field, take that corrective action, and then and have that information so that she's getting the information in, again, the fastest way possible. We have another client, AI, who had before they started to use the system, had a $1 million shipment rejected by a customer, because when the customer got the shipment, didn't meet their quality attributes. Now all testing results, again, are immediately going through the system, and they are getting alerts when there's something non-compliant, so that they can take a corrective action before sending something to the customer. And those are just a couple of examples that are off of the top of my head. Excuse me. Andy, Dave, is asking. Andy is asking, how long does it take to implement? What's the typical implementation time for a solution like this?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I would say the average answer that we give is 3 and 4 months. And obviously that varies depending on the modules. Back to the modular question that we had earlier, depending on the modules selected, but a good average time frame that our development folks put out and our implementation project managers put out is 3 and 4 months. And obviously that can go down a little bit and might be extended a little bit depending on phasing and how the customer wants to go through the implementation.
Obviously we work on that with you. Much faster implementation than a non-class, non-firewall solution. Jonathan is saying, Barbara mentioned audit readiness. Can you elaborate on how the solution helps you be audit ready? Probably can't. Actually, I think we did do a whole webinar on that, but Dave, if you can give us some of the high points.
Yeah, sure. So you say it, and I get to turn it on, Barbara.
Of course, that's the way it goes.
The idea of audit readiness can come in multiple fashions, right? Very simplest of one. I talked about a little bit about our GFSI tool as well as vendor approval programs. part of that readiness is making sure all the documentation has been reviewed and is updated and nothing's expired, right? That ability to have it all in one repository that reminds you of any of those things ongoing. So proactively, it's reminding you of anything you need to do, continues you that ability to maintain audit readiness. Take it a step further. When we talk about electronic records capture, right, you're capturing the pH on the chlorine or on the flume, or you're capturing the cook temperatures or your distribution facility temperatures, whatever it might be. Is that because all of this resides within this document and data repository, it's available at your fingertips. When you go through your SQF audit and the person says, let me see your facility walkthroughs for the past 3 months, there in a second, right? It's a report that you find at your fingertips, right? 2 clicks away. The idea that you can go through desk audit and review standard operating procedures and say, oh, by the way, Barbara reviewed this on this date and here were her comments. All of it lives in one place. There's no need to run to the filing cabinet and then go to an Excel spreadsheet and try to pull it all together. So when we talk audit readiness, it's really the access to data. It's access to not only the data, but the documents that will be required as part of that audit and review as well. So really we talk about one repository for all information that's available, within your fingertips, right? And that allows you to be audit ready at any moment, at any time.
Great, thank you. I'm looking in, some questions were in my private chat, but I think that might have been the last one. Dave, if you want to take a quick look and see if you got anything. I know Jill, our host, sent us a few of those, so I'm just going to review the for more information real quickly and then give a shout if you see anything. Again, visit our website, sign up for upcoming webinars. We also will be promoting our FSMA Fridays with Dr. David Atchison through our blog. So at our website, you can register for our blog, and we hope to see you and about across the country at some of these upcoming conferences and on another SafetyChain web event soon. Dave?
I don't have anything else. Thanks, Barbara.
Okay. With that, then, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. And thanks,